Hello, welcome to Armored Warfare with Gorlans Army. My name is Ralks, and today I will be reviewing the T-90 Tier 8 Russian main battle tank from Murat Shishkin's line. Now, things to note about this tank are par for the course. Its gun is top of the line. It has the highest penetration and highest damage for its tier. The hit points of the tank is actually really good at 2,400, second only to the Abrams. Its camouflage is solid at 0.18. Vision, 368 degrees, 368 meters, is pretty good. Cannon depression is 5 degrees, unfortunately a lot less than we got on the T-80. Turret traverse is ridiculous, 54 degrees per second once you are fully upgraded. Reload time is 8.2 seconds. Accuracy is 0.10, again with a full upgraded crew. The targeting time is 2.43 seconds. Coming over here to the armor, we have 585 millimeters of frontal turret armor. That's with no weak spots except for maybe the hatch, but shooting that hatch will only do about a quarter of the damage of the normal shell's potential. We also have 544 millimeters of frontal hull armor. That does not include the bottom plate. The bottom plate is weaker and can be penned by most guns of the same tier. In the front of the tank, you do have a weak commander's driver's viewport right here. So if you bounce the suspension, it should stop shots to that. Side armor is really good. The turret is 518 millimeters, almost the same as the front, and how it's rounded will block most shells from most guns. Side of the tank is 281. Better than the T-80, but still not great. You do not want to be showing the side of your tank to anybody. Rear is abysmal. And going into the crew, for the commander for this tank, I have Sabrina Washington, because she gives me better view range and better camo and better aim speed, which helps me shoot before I am shot at and see first before I am seen. I also get a visibility penalty reduction by 30% whenever I fire my gun, which again helps me stay invisible while other tanks are spotted. Base capture rate is improved by 25%. I got that because it helps me cap the base if I'm in a base race and just need a cap to win. Coming over here to the crew, we have my driver with spin to win, which increases the whole traverse speed. Again, the whole traverse speed is not as good as the T-80, which had the best mobility in the T-series. And I also got off-road driving, which helped me accelerate to increase my mobility a little more. For my gunner, I went and took quick draw to help that accuracy spread tighten down faster. I also took marksman so that I could hit longer range targets and snipe a little more effectively. Now for the ammo on the T-90, we have my favorite, the heat rounds, which do a ridiculous 825 average alpha damage. They also have 504 millimeters of penetration. Now they get more damage with this, and you saw more damage in the panel over there because I have some retrofits that help that out, and I'll take a look at that in just a second. We also have AP, which is the best AP for its tier at 645 damage, 600 millimeters of penetration. That will cut up an M1 Abrams and deliver it out to all your allies really well. You also get HE on this tank, which the T-80 did not get. So if you face yourself against a higher tiered opponent that you can't pen, go ahead and fire HE into the turret ring or below the tank. That usually does the most damage. We also have high explosive thermobaric missiles. And this is pretty much guided HE ammo that flies really slow. In fact, they fly 300 meters per second less than your normal HE. You fire this if you really need to get those shots in. This is my last stand ammo, or if you need to get a shot into a cap circle that you normally can't get or somebody would normally avoid or bounce. You also get really awesome missiles that do 824 damage and have 1,173 millimeters of penetration, which is absolutely ludicrous. Most main battle tanks of the same tier can block these, though, due to their composite armor, so be careful when you're firing these. For retrofits, I have Mark III experimental propellant, which is where you saw the increase in heat damage on the side panel over there. I have Mark II internal hull reinforcement just to help the HP of my tank stay up there and take a few more hits. I also have the advanced MRS, so I can pen things like bottom plates much easier. These are what I'd recommend on most of the Russian tanks just because they work so well. You know, you have great damage. Why not make it a little better? You need more armor. Only get one. This is the quintessential armor upgrade in my opinion. It gives you the most hit points. Unless you find yourself getting ammo racked a lot, or your engine getting knocked out, or your crew killed, I'd usually go with the Mark II internal hull reinforcement. I also have the advanced MRS, which again helps me with the lower plates and angled targets. For consumables, I am not cheap. I buy a lot of stuff with consumables. I've got the 17,000 credit consumables and the 20,000 credit fire extinguisher. And the reason why I have these is because they give a passive resilience, passive grades to my crew and to my tank while I'm playing the game. And that lets me perform a little better if I don't use them. And if I do use them, it fixes everything on the tank. I don't have to pick and choose. I always take an auto fire extinguisher because if you don't have one and you get set on fire, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. My final thoughts on the T-90 main battle tank are that it's really good. I personally think it's a step up from the T-80. One, its viewport weakness right here is a little smaller. Its gun depression is less and it moves a little slower, but I think that helps it out because you don't rush out in front of everybody and die accidentally. A lot of T-80 drivers will rush out, and if you have something like Challengers or M1 Abrams on your team, they're not going to be able to keep up with you, and you're usually going to find yourself in a place you can't get out of. While the T-90, still quick and still faster than the other guys, it doesn't get so far ahead that they can't get there in time to help you. And yeah, in my opinion, its gun depression is 2 degrees less than the T-80. I really didn't like that. Like the gun depression on the T-80. T-90 doesn't get it, unfortunately. Instead, you get an anti-missile system, which will knock any missiles out. You get the explosive reactive armor. So all in all, I think the T-90 is a good upgrade from the T-80. Better armor, better side armor, anti-missile system, better gun, and the explosive reactive armor. And that'll do it for the garage review. Alright, hello and welcome to the PvE T-90 main battle tank test here on Winter Storm. Now, some things to note about the PvE is that you're usually competing with everybody else on your team to see who can kill the most things. And because we're in the T-90 with the best gun and best mobility, we should have a very, very good chance at doing the best out of everybody here. And you can see us right now just rushing ahead, using our mobility to get around the left side of this building where there's less competition for the targets. To use our excellent gun and excellent penetration to knock these guys out. And you can see everybody else just getting into position there. And it really doesn't matter how good your gun is if you can't hit the target, which I end up doing right here is I just can't hit the broadside of the barn at the moment, which will change shortly. And there we go, got a nice good damage roll on that T-72A 991. And he gets us probably through that driver's viewport I was talking about in the garage, which is a weak spot and you do have to worry about in PvE because the Autobots auto-aim at it. Now here, I'm going to show off the potential of the knife fighting capabilities of the T-90. You can see that we can just outrace the turret, and if he was still had his tracks used, he wouldn't have been able to get at me at all, simply because he's too slow and too cumbersome. Now here we go, we're going to finish off this MBT-70 with some support from our other guys, or maybe not. Just drive by, hit him nice square in the side, and then we're off. Now we don't want to go around the outside of that because we don't want to get caught out in the open all alone, because then we won't have anywhere to maneuver and we will die very quickly. Now, here we go, we're going to go and go ahead and nab that secondary objective there at D2. And we're going to get the secondary objective at D2 because it's very critical to do in a PvE match. It gives you a 30% credit and experience bonus to get those secondaries. So you always want to get them all the time. If nobody else is getting them, then you need to get them. It also offers a 200 to 300 XP. So that's nice. So we're going to nab this. Tanks popped up right behind us, so we grab some cover really quick. It's very important to make sure your flanks are secure before engaging any enemy targets. You want to make sure that your rears and side are secure because that's where your weakest armor is. So when you're engaging, make sure you do that, otherwise you'll find yourself dying very, very quickly. And if you do that quick check, you'll note that you don't get shot at as much, and most of the shots that do hit you don't penetrate nearly as often. Here we go, we're just going to play with this T-80 here, just completely wreck him with our ammo. And you can see us aiming at the lower plate here, because even with our good gun, we can't punch straight through the front of his armor. To all the T-80 drivers out there think we can just, you know, roll through your armor like it's nothing. We can't. We can pen your weak spots very easily. And now we've put ourselves into a position where we can just hammer this M1 Abrams. He's giving our guys a hard time, which is why we're not focusing down that T-90. is because we want to help our allies out and get as much damage out of that M1 and stop him from taking shots at our allies, which is also killing him faster. Now we'll go ahead and engage this T-90 right here. Similar, very same tank. It's the same tank, not a similar tank. And you can see that he's twisting and turning, and as he's twisting and turning, I'm changing where I'm aiming at. Even if you think you can roll through the front of a tank and just completely annihilate it, you want to make sure you're still aiming for those weak spots because there's a higher chance to damage them. And you can see the fact that I had my side open to this T-72A. He just punched straight through my armor, and it hurt. And you don't want to be hurt. Quick fun fact is that AP ammo will detonate people's explosive reactive armor, which is nice. And here you can see me. We're going to go ahead and try to nab that secondary at H2 until a Challenger 2 pops up behind us. Now, you want to deal with the tanks behind you first, as I mentioned before. And you want to help your allies out, even though you are competing against them to see who can do the most damage. That doesn't mean you just leave them out to dry. So here we go. Again, we're going to go ahead and use the knife fighting capabilities of the tank. Track the Challenger 2, come up behind him, and finish him off. Which, if you were in an M1 Abrams or a Challenger 1 or an area, you wouldn't have the mobility to get around there that quick, or you might not even fit. Alright, now here we have our guys at the cap circle. Our area went ahead and grabbed that secondary, so we don't have to worry about it. All the secondaries are grabbed, which means we all get the 30% bonus. And we're just going to play with these remainder enemy tanks that are trying to engage us. It's not working out too well for them. I tried to get a shot on this warrior, but yeah, he's just a little too quick to get behind cover for me. So I'm going to go ahead and follow this Challenger 1 out here to re-engage some targets, that M1 Abrams probably, and the BMP3 that just popped up. Now, a thing to note is I keep on saying that this T-90's gun is better than all the other guns, but the reason why it's better is that it just does so much more damage. It does 100 to 200 more damage than any other guns there are, which is really good for the DPM. The only problem is it's one of the most inaccurate guns in the game, so you want to make sure you get that chrome barrel lining and other things going for you. Okay, we'll leave the Challenger 1 to finish off that M1 as we engage this warrior to prevent him from getting side shots at our allies. And how it prevents him from getting the side shots is the AI will shoot at whatever hit them last or whatever's aggroing them. And because we aggroed him, he shot at us instead of the weak sides and rear of our M1 Abrams. So now somebody drove into the cap circle and it's a race to the finish. We only have 2 AP shells left, which is fine. High tier field maintenance kits are very expensive, so I don't want to use that because they're 20,000 a piece and it can get very expensive very quick. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this game with my HE rounds. Okay, if you have HE, you can still aim at weak spots and do a lot of damage. Somebody beat us to the shot there. M1 Abrams, I think. And this BMP3 is just driving into a whole mess. There he goes. And now we're going to shoot at this BMD4. You can see that we can penetrate his side armor by the green reticle there. And if we can penetrate his side armor with HE, we can do a lot of damage. As you saw, we do about as much damage as an average heat shell. Going to come up behind the C1 area and engage a T-90 MS. Now that's a very dangerous target. You can see that my HE doesn't even do damage. It does module damage. And we're hiding behind the C1 area right now simply because he has a lot more armor than we do. And if he gets hit, it's more likely to bounce. So if you guys see a T-90 hiding behind you when you're in your Ariettes or your Challengers or your M1 Abrams, that's because they don't have the armor they do. And they're just trying to help you out without taking hits themselves, which is beneficial to your team. Now, if they're camping right behind you and blocking you from backing up, that's another story. Here we're engaging this BMD4, and you can see just how much damage we can do if we penetrate the target. 763, which is an incredibly good roll. More than our IEP, a little less than our heat rounds would have done. Here we go. We're going to sweep right the side of these buildings and just try to finish off all the enemies that might be over here. There might be a couple stragglers. There sometimes is, sometimes aren't. And yeah, that's about it for this PvE match. But the thing about the T-90 in PvE is that it's an incredibly good lone wolf tank. It has the mobility to change where its armor is very quickly, and it has the gun and DPM to deal with all the targets you're going to face. So if you want, you can go kind of stand alone with the T-90 in PvE matches as long as you're a top tier tank. If you're not the top tier tank and you're with tier 9s, you're going to have to worry about it a little more. But all in all, it's a phenomenal PvE tank. Great damage. You can see we did 15,000 damage, which will net us a very, very high profit. And that's the T-90 in PvE. Here you can see we made 58,000 credits because we didn't use our high tier field maintenance kit. And we netted a good 11,000 experience, which is a solid win. Good experience, good money, good tank. I'll see you guys in the PvP review.